I've discovered the laziest method to making 20K a month as an online fitness coach or consultant, because exactly 1.5 years ago, I was $6,000 into debt from investing into a course, all while working 12 hours daily, 7 days a week. Running a failing coaching business to just 90 days later, hitting an $81,000 month. This is all because I built a money printing acquisition machine that I called the Trust Funnel. After that, I've showed others how to do the same, and I've helped multiple others hit 10 to 20K months in their online coaching businesses. All right, let's dive into everything. So what used to work, what you guys are probably running a version of now, is a follower ad funnel where you're pretty much running an ad, right? A very basic talking head ad, sending people to education-based content where it's pure value. My content was like best snacks for fat loss, 3 best ways to lose fat, high protein meals. You know, we were doing outbound DMs, we were getting a really high response rate, very high show rate to sales calls as well, very high close rate. It was a very simple funnel. It's the reason it's so attractive. And people are still probably trying to sell you on doing this to this day. Now, here's the problem with that though. There's 3 main problems why this doesn't work quite the same. Let's take a look at this first chart here. This is the average confidence in major US institutions from 1979 to 2023. So, you know, back in 1979, that confidence was at 50%, right? Now, fast forward to 2023, we're at 26%. You know, it's 2026 now with all the different things that are happening, the complete distrust in our government. We could use this as a proxy for pretty much social media and for pretty much the entire Western world. This is probably quite a bit less now. I'd imagine stooping below 20%, right? So you have literally less than half of the amount of trust that there was over 40 years ago. And that's like almost exponentially decreasing as well. And it's not just a trust recession, it's a trust crash, right? Like this is here to stay because there's always going to be, you know, the rise of AI, people using that as scams. So there's just much less trust. Now, also another thing that happened just in the last year or two alone is that just the sheer increase of coaches, the amount of saturation in every single niche. So back in 2020, there was only 53,000 coaches. This number coming into 2026, like it's pretty much 3x, right? So you pretty much 3x the amount of coaches since 2020. There's no way that doesn't affect the industry that you're in, whether you're a fitness coach, business coach, relationship coach, you name it, right? And not only that, but there's more coaches actually investing into themselves with different mentorships, which means the follower ad funnel, as an example, there's more total people that are running that. It's not unique anymore. Everyone's running ads as if they're following the exact same script. And then no one's gonna trust you because they think, oh, all these guys learn from the same people. They don't know what they're doing actually. So the market becomes very attuned to that and a lot more sophisticated as a result. Third thing that happened is Meta launched their Andromeda update. And this was like in December of 2024 that they actually had announced it. But it was only until like 2025 in August or so where I noticed that my business, my clients' businesses, and a lot of friends' businesses started to do a lot shittier in terms of the lead quality, the response rate, the show rate on sales calls. All those numbers went to shit and all of our ROASs as a result really plummeted. And the reason why is the way the Andromeda update works is that, let's say that you have a desired action that you want like one of your ideal clients to take, right? So you run a follower ad, you want people to click on your page, and if they don't take that action, they're gonna be hit and bombarded with 15 other competitors' ads, right? So why should they go with your ad, right? There's no reason why they should actually do that because 9 times out of 10, they're gonna go with the whale in your industry, right? Unless you have absolutely more authority and more proof, which you probably don't, right? Or you wouldn't be listening to this video. So where you are now is you're probably spending hours filming this educational content, yet there's still no trust in your offer at all. And then prospects end up going with the competitors, as I said, right? So it doesn't matter how much traffic is sent to your page if your page sucks, right? Think about your Instagram page as a conventional landing page where people used to go for VSLs and stuff. That's your Instagram page now, right? And if it's not optimized, if you don't have a brand, if people don't see you as a one of one, a special snowflake, it doesn't matter, right? So we need to build a brand with predictable conversion mechanisms. And that's exactly why I've built what's called the trust funnel, because we want to counteract this trust crash that we find ourselves in. Now, everyone used to rely solely on ads and then they just ran pure value content, but that funnel is like completely oversaturated. That type of content is oversaturated. Anyone can make it, AI could produce it, doesn't matter, right? The first mentorship I was in, and I invested in it, taught me this strategy, but then it completely stopped working for me because everyone does it. And then the Andromeda update on top of that, it made it virtually impossible. And this happened like I said, last summer when everyone's businesses was going over because of that. So that's when I realized, right? Like we need to go all in on brand. We need to be polarizing. We need to be vulnerable. We need to treat the top of funnel a lot more seriously as opposed to just ads. So now it's ads and content. And what happened is the best pieces of content, right? The best short form content over here also make for the best ads now as well. Okay, so the best ads are the best content, vice versa. And what we could do now is we could start testing all of our organic pieces of content as ads. But in order to do that in the first place, like it doesn't matter how much traffic we send if the content sucks. If we're running it to shit content, we actually need to take this seriously. Now, what we do here is we take various video ads, carousel ads, raw niche ads, and all of your organic content, which this is pretty much one and the same now, and we send it to our Instagram page, and that's when we start the nurture process. And just doing this alone, right? Like I have my client Josh Wayne who started getting leads at $1 per lead using this strategy. Okay, he's got 3,300 niche followers now. He's been very successful, just starting off. He was getting $60 leads before he started my program using the trust funnel. So that's exactly the type of results that you could see if you're actually implementing this style of funnel here. Now let's go into the nurture phase. The long form is probably the most important thing. Back, however many years ago, YouTube or Google ran a study where basically they found out that it takes 7 hours of content consumption for a prospect to actually convert. So right now you're probably in a position where you're just hoping someone clicks the link in your bio or DMs you. But the bottom line is that is not a predictable conversion mechanism whatsoever. We need to have story sequences set up that send people to our long form. We need to have short form content set up and many chat automations and whatnot so we could send people to the long form as well. This long form is going to be videos just like the one you're watching right now on YouTube, in audio form, on Spotify and podcasts as well. This allows us to qualify the leads, the best leads that we want, and then we could also retarget them into this long form content or retarget them into lead forms as well, and get them into the DMs. Now, this is where, first I want to show just someone that we use this as well, Chris Lee here. He started running, long form content on YouTube. You could see he was running videos, just one using like the Epiphany Bridge script I use for client testimonials, like David, director of advertising, goes from skinny fat to superhero. Also use, just informational videos like the framework to losing belly fat forever, 9 to fit nutrition method. And these are all like very raw videos. And you can see he only has 508 subscribers, 39 views on this video, 8 views on this one, 8 views on this one. But guess what? Like the people that are actually clicking from the Instagram to watch these videos, those are the people that are the buyers. Right? In my last business where I was teaching specifically just fitness coaches on how to make money online, I had the best clients that had come from podcasts themselves. Like you could see, Josh Wayne up here that I was talking about, like he came from long form and podcasts that I had made, right? And he's one of my most successful clients. So that's a trend that you'll start to notice. Now, after nurture is the acquisition portion. And you could get infinite traffic, but you could have no sales processes in place. And then if you wonder why your ROAS is bad, a big part of that is your ability to actually convert people after you get the right people through the door. So you need to get to a point where you could hire a skilled DM setter, right? A skilled DM setter so you could focus on closing deals, right? We want to nurture pre-call and have people coming through to the call cash in hand, ready to buy, okay? I worked on Davey Fogarty's offer actually, the very popular, essentially he's done over $1 billion in sales. He's on Shark Tank, and people would come to the call because of his level of authority and because of the pre-nurture sequence that we would use. And it didn't matter if it was their last $5,000 in savings, they were buying, right? Now, here's the thing. You need both, right? Because we need to develop that level of authority that Davey had. You also need to improve your sales skills as well. So these are both things that we need to fixate on. But, the marketing in this funnel does the heavy lifting because we fixate so much on brand that, once we do our warm outbound, once we have inbound leads coming in, the DM convo, the response rates are a lot higher because of this. And once we book in a call, we're going to run a nurture sequence where people are showing up to the call. All of their questions, all of their objections pre-handled. We are sending niche long-form assets to people specific to their pain points. And then, once we get to the sales call, the show rate is significantly higher as well, and the close rate is significantly higher. So this is to contrast from the follower ad funnel that doesn't work nearly as well anymore for the main reason that we don't have a brand, we don't have an authority behind us. So the close rate, the show rate, the DM response rate, it's all so much higher when we treat this top of funnel, the attraction, the nurture process more seriously. Now, some results that we can expect in the acquisition portion, Roberto, you could see he doesn't have that many followers, he doesn't have that many prospects, but he has the right prospects, right? Just about 2,000 niche followers. And back in January, he spent $700 on ads. He collected 3.8K, but he also contracted 10K total, right? So his ROAS just on contracted cash was well over 10x, right? So there's a 10x ROAS that Roberto was able to get. He's collected that cash since in the subsequent months, as I've talked to him recently. Same thing with Josh, right? He was getting calls booked using this method, $103 per call booked. So let's imagine that you have a $4,000+ program, regardless of your industry, right? And you're getting $100 cost per book call. And now the show rate's also higher because we've developed a level of authority. Like, what would that do for your business if you could have $100 per call? How many calls could you take a day? How many would you close, right? How much money would you actually be making as a return on investment from that? That would probably be life-changing. And then the last thing is your lifetime value, right? So this is a very important portion that we have to take seriously because it's easier to get a client, because it's easier to keep a client than it is to get a client, right? So you can see results in my group right here. Chris getting 2 upsells in one day, collecting $7,800 in cash. Roberto having a $4,800 upsell. Jessica having a 5K upsell. So this is the easiest way to double your business overnight. And there's a couple ways we could do this. I don't want to get too much into details, but you could collect all that cash up front, or you could have those people on monthly recurring revenue to add a little bit more predictability into your business. But either way, when we know that we could put $1 in and how much money we're going to get out per client because we know the upsell rate and what the average cash collected is on the upsell, now we have a more predictable business overnight that also generates more total profit because these upsells, right? It's all profit because we're not doing any marketing anymore to be able to attain this client. So it's more important that we fixate on how to keep the client as opposed to how to get new ones. So this is where, a thorough fulfillment process comes into play, and the ability to generate client wins. So actually being a good coach, because that actually matters in 2026. The people that can't produce results, they're going to be absolutely swallowed. And then, my clients, one of the reasons why they're able to have kind of this self-sustaining machine where they, get client results and then they put it back into their marketing, back into their organic content. That organic content functions as ads. That content also nurtures the people that come from the ads. That gets more clients, and then that goes straight back into the testimonial SOP. So it's a self-sustaining funnel. Right? And then from there, we pretty much upsell or downsell our clients, or go into a program continuation of the program that they were utilizing before. That gives you predictable monthly recurring revenue. Now you could take these concepts and try to spend the next 12 months trying to figure out the tech, the automations, and the scripting all for yourself. But if you want to skip the trial and error, I will literally build this all out for you. For my next 20 clients, I'm offering a one-on-one partnership where I'll personally sit down with you, build out your own short-form content strategy, your brand pillars, your conversion mechanisms, and everything in between. My goal is to get you to $20,000 a month so you could finally work from anywhere. If you want me to install the trust funnel into your business, just click the link down below in the description where you can book in a discovery call with me, and we'll personally go through where you're at in your business, where you're trying to take it, and to see if you're even a good fit to work with me.